I feel weird not saying, like, I feel weird doing Scott's intro.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it sounds different.
Welcome to the If You Build It, Will They Learn podcast, a show dedicated to modern learning and development. With your hosts, Daniel Mendonca and Scott Babcock.
It's podcast day. Welcome to the show. This is If You Build It, Will They Learn? I'm Daniel Mendonca. Scott Babcock, my usual co-host, is out on assignment. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I also have our producer, Sabrina Pontoni, in the building with me, and we are here for a little special 2021 season preview. Season 2 is upon us, and we're excited to give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek and preview episode here. Sabrina, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm excited to be on today. Scott's left us to record without him, so we'll see how this goes, but I'm excited.
Left us to record without him, or you and I just snuck on the mics and maybe
That's
he doesn't
true.
even know this is going on. It's a possibility. It's a possibility. Listen, he's had his run on a solo episode, so why can't we?
True.
All right. On today's episode, like I mentioned, this is all about a season preview. We kick off next Thursday, February 11th, season 2 for 2021, and we're making some big improvements in season 2. So today we're going to kind of walk through 3 different things. We're going to reflect on 2020 a little bit. We're going to talk about what's next and some unique things that are going to happen in 2021. And without further ado, let's get going. All right. First off, just to talk about last year a little bit. It was a great endeavor, and Scott and I have talked about this before at length, so I won't hop into it too much. But the two of us set out on this journey to create a podcast. Sabrina was a great late addition to the process as she joined Halite. We created this trifecta, this trident of success when it came to the podcast, and we had a great year. Viewership, or listenership, I should say, grew week to week. We started to get questions from other people, and it's really been something that we've continued to enjoy, because I'll tell you, if Scott and I stopped enjoying recording this podcast every week, we probably wouldn't have season 2. So we're happy to be here for season 2. If I look back on 2020 in our episodes, I think there was a common theme. And virtual and taking your content virtual is obviously a common theme. We've all been affected by COVID. Businesses, training environments have all been affected by COVID, and I don't think 2021 is going to be much different. I think if we had to give it a theme of 2020, it would have been compliance, or getting to a point of success with your content in a virtual space. And this year is all going to be about projecting yourself forward and being even better. So now that you've level set yourself, we're in a place now we can move forward. So 2020, as we highlighted virtual events, as we highlighted the addition of micro training and micro learning in different environments, AR, VR, and other things, it really kind of laid out a foundation for us to build objectives, training objectives, and help our current customer base at Halite, and also a lot of other individuals to be successful. With all that being said, virtual events is still going to be a big topic of conversation. Virtual training, virtual conferences. Scott is actually off on assignment, like I mentioned. He's coordinating the strategy and the event strategy around a very large leadership conference for a customer of ours. So we've been really successful in the launch of a new product this year, or in the past year in 2020, that really embodies everything that we talked about on the podcast over the past few months. So overall, I think 2020 was a really successful year. We'd love to hear what you think. We got a ton of feedback on social media and other places, which is awesome. But I'm really personally excited to make 2021 even better. All right. So as we said, 2020 was a unique year. We all know that. It was a great year for content. We created this podcast. So what does 2021 have in store for us here at If You Build It, Will They Learn? Scott, Sabrina, and I are going to continue in the lab. We're going to continue trying to make the best content possible for you. But what does that content entail, and how does it relate to the way training is going to be in 2021? So first off, I don't think virtual is going anywhere. We're obviously a lot of people are still locked down. In-person training events aren't something that have returned quite yet. There's a lot of hope and prospect that there'll be in-person conferences in the back half of 2021, but virtual is still precedent. So what you're going to start to see this year is the transition from virtual back to hybrid. So who needs to be in person? Who doesn't need to be in person? Is there an audience that can stay virtual while we bring a smaller group of people to our headquarters or to a training site and different things? And our podcast is going to be no different. I think our content is going to reflect that. And we're hoping that in 2021, we'll be able to have our first in-person podcast with Scott and I and Sabrina all in the same room. Who knows? That'd be nice if we can cross the Canadian-US border for the first time in I guess it's been 10, 11 months now. But what else is coming for 2021 for our podcast? Guests. We've got great feedback on the guests we had in 2020. We had some Scott and Steven and a lot of others, Nyla and some other guests that joined us to talk about different subjects. We're looking forward to bringing on more L&D, more training related guests. So we would love your feedback on who those could be, who you think, or if you would like to be a guest in the podcast, feel free to let us know. We'd love to bring you on. On top of that, what you're also going to learn about is some more unique content outside of our podcast. So when we talk about microlearning or how to create objectives or develop objectives, what we're going to do is create micro content out of that is specific to your industry. So Halite, we work a ton in retail. We do a lot of health and safety. We work in manufacturing. You're going to see smaller content, really talk about microlearning in the retail sector or microlearning for manufacturing. We talk about onboarding and virtual training. We're also going to dive deeper in between episodes into specific industries that will give you tactical information specific for what you're doing. Further to our 2021 strategy, you're going to see a lot more content from Halite in general. So a lot of little things that are going to come off of If You Build It, Will They Learn? We've made an emphasis to put a lot of time into this podcast, put a lot of effort into this podcast. And you're going to see some, I guess, top of the pyramid type content here in terms of large subjects, feedback people give us. And throughout the week, you're going to see a lot of different things from Halite in terms of Knowledge Now, their weekly blogs, Training Tip Tuesday, and a lot of other interactions on our social media that are going to all be centered around what we talk about on the podcast. So you're going to start to dive in a lot deeper into the intricacies of what we speak about for 30 to 60 minutes every week. And hopefully maybe create some micro interviews and other things that come off of this. But what you're really going to see is a 50 or a 40 week strategy, approximately 40 episodes this year that really dives into 40 individual topics. And from there spews out days and days of different articles and posts and things that can help you take advantage of L&D and just have tips and tricks and different ways to approach other situations. And lastly, what would a 2021 preview be without a preview for next week's episode? Every year you see the tips, the trends, all this stuff that come out. So next week will be Halite and the If You Build It, Will They Learn team's official 8 trends to expect in e-learning in 2021. There's going to be some old ones. You're going to see some familiar faces in this podcast in terms of what you hear, but you're also going to see some new ones that could come forward and really step to the forefront in terms of maybe their trends, maybe their hot topics. Maybe they're going to fade away into the abyss after 1 year, little one-hit wonders. We'll see what stays and what goes, but we're really excited to talk about that. Obviously, January has been a time for us to put everything down, understand, talk to our customers, talk to our colleagues and acquaintances in the industry, and understand who's on what page and progress forward next year. So I'm excited for the trends episode. We'll cover 8 trends in next week's episode. And finally, I guess I said lastly on the last point, but finally here, what would a podcast be without a positivity point of the day? Also, selfishly, this is me just wanting to brag about my daughter. First of all, she turns 1 next week, which is absolutely insane for me. But last night, We're recording this on Wednesday. Last night, Oakley, at the ripe old age of 11 months and 3 weeks, decided to take her first steps. So instead of just screaming in the background through the podcast, you might hear some pitter patter throughout. So that's my positivity to the point of the podcast. It's been a interesting 11 months. It's made me reflect and be grateful and understand things that I really reflect. But last night was kind of that moment where my eyes opened. And I was like, oh my God, my little girl's growing up soon. She's gonna be in college soon. Who knows? Sabrina, do you have a positivity point that you wanted to add to the podcast before we go?
I don't know how to follow up something like that. Like, I seriously don't. It's just so cute. I saw the video of her walking and I was like, oh my goodness, this girl is going to be an athlete one day, little sturdy baby. Who knows? I do have a positivity point. It's super quick, not that exciting, but my positivity point is that I've gotten into reading. Fun fact, I used to read, got out of it when I went to university because I read enough during school. And then quarantine, after work or on the weekends, I really just enjoy a good book. I really appreciated it as an outlet. So that's my positivity point.
That's awesome. I'm glad you're doing that. Are you reading like fiction? Are you reading like business related stuff that could help you in your day-to-day life? I guess what's your book of choice?
Well, Daniel, I don't know if you were setting me up for that one, but Daniel actually got me a book called The Real Life MBA, which I thought has been very insightful and awesome. Actually, my mom's already asking to borrow it because she just wants to read it. But for fun, I read a lot of just fictional, like New York City fun reads, like kind of mindless, to be honest, but I like them.
Awesome. No, I was not setting you up for that. No, it was an honest question. Wanted to, what you enjoyed. I think New York City fiction novels like that is right on brand with your one positivity point about the One Direction concert. So, it's a whole thing. Everything lines up. Anyways, on that note, thanks everybody for listening to this quick little snippet. I'm not going to call it a solo project because Sabrina was here along for the ride, but we're excited that 2021 season 2 is here. So enjoy it. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the If You Build It, Will They Learn podcast. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Join the conversation by emailing us at podcast@haylight.com. Find us on social media at Build It, Learn It, and be sure to check us out on the web at www.haylight.com. That's HALIGHT.com.